Hey guys, Dan here from your Guitar Academy and the Guitar Club, and today we're going to be talking about 5 essential practice tips for beginners. So I'm assuming if you've clicked on this video, you're a beginner and you're looking to try and help yourself out in these early stages. And I've got 5 tips for you here that will really help. This is a really big one for early days guitar players because when we've got not much strength in the fingers initially, and certainly very little calluses, and calluses are the kind of the hard bit, the hard bit of skin that you develop on top of your normal human skin on the fingertips, which only happens through practice. So that will happen just naturally all by itself as you work with the guitar. But it's very tempting for us to think that we've got to push down super, super hard on these frets to actually make a sound. And initially it does feel like that, because obviously you've never really had anything else where you've had to kind of push into this, like, you know, string that's made of, well, you can either have nylon strings or steel strings. This is a steel string guitar. So pushing down on that can feel hard initially, but actually, more importantly, we're looking for precision. The first thing to remember here and remind yourself is that you're not actually looking to try and push the string onto the plank of wood that's the fretboard, okay? You're pushing the string onto the fret. So this silver bit that kind of defines our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going up the neck here, that's the bit that's making contact with the string itself. And therefore that immediately shifts it to be like, oh, actually, I don't need to push it and try and get it all the way down onto the wooden bit, because that's what a lot of beginners try to do. Now, if you try and do that too much, you can actually push the note out of tune, especially on an electric guitar. If you try to push down too hard on electric guitar and try and actually get to the wood, then you're going to bend the string out of tune. Instead, what we're looking for is precision. So we're looking to try and get it close as possible, your finger close as possible to the edge of the fret itself, so the silver fret. So if on a piece of tab or an instructor's telling you to play the 5th fret, so this is the 5th fret, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, what we mean by 5th fret is this silver bit here. Not in the middle of it, between the 4th and the 5th fret, that's there. We're looking for here, okay? And the closer you can get to there, the less hard you have to push down, because you're basically already almost on the fret. If you go just a bit too far, you'll mute the string. But just as you come back, so you're looking at roughly that position there, okay? If I come back here, even pushing, you know, the same amount of strength pushing down there gets that sound. And as I come across, you get that sound. So your first massive tip is to be precise with where you put your fingers. When I say 5th fret, or whoever the instructor is says 5th fret, what we mean is literally get it as close to that 5th silver fret as possible without being on top of it. If you're on top of it, it buzzes as well. Just back from it like that. And then what I would recommend doing is taking a simple exercise like a spider exercise. So we do a lot of these in our 30-day beginner challenge, where we do this. You might have come across these exercises before. And when we do this, if we just practice it, let's just take the D string for the moment, and we just look at where each of my fingers is landing. It's not like this. You see, all of those are too far back. Whereas if I try and accurately get them to the edge of each fret, we've got a good job there. You don't have to push down anywhere near as hard. So I would recommend taking the spider exercise or any scale that you might already know and try and readjust it so that you're doing that, and therefore play around with how hard you actually need to push it down. Now, this is very hard initially, okay, but something you need to start to practice, because when we first start learning guitar, and I've sat with a lot of students doing this, and actually something I like to do quite regularly is literally flip the guitar up like this and try and play this way around, because it immediately, I remind myself how hard it is as a beginner to kind of coordinate these two hands. It's like starting again, literally. If anyone's out there that's more like an intermediate guitar player, try that. But anyway, for you guys that are beginners, this feels very foreign with both hands. So even holding the pick and trying to find the right note. So let's say I was just doing that spider exercise again. I was just doing that D string. And I'm just trying to go like this. Okay. So what's happening when you first initially do that is you're probably finding that you're looking immediately at your right hand. Am I on the right string? Yes. Then left hand. Am I in the right place here? Maybe. and then back and forth, and then we get the note. Voila. And then we do the same thing for the next note. Here, am I on this string here? And we go back and forth like that over and over again. So what we want to try and do is remove the attention from the right hand and place it on the left hand. Or if you are left-handed, basically your fretting hand is where we want our eyes to be, our attention. And the right hand, we want to try and let it do its thing, okay? So even if you find yourself doing a wrong note, so if you're here and you're looking at this and then you hear this, so what's happened there is obviously you've got the right fretted hand here, fretting stuff here, but you've plucked the wrong string. Without looking too desperately on this hand, try and find it. Try and find that D string. Okay, you're on it now. And then from there, down, up, down, up. Simple things like kind of like anchoring your hand over here. So just slightly leaning the kind of fatty part of the thumb back here on the lower strings, or some people like to kind of anchor with their fingers like that, just so that there is something that holds you down and you can start to work this side out without looking too hard, okay? That also works the other way around. If I'm working on an exercise where I need to investigate if my right hand doing alternate picking or whatever, then trying to do it without looking too hard at this side. So doing an exercise that might be quite familiar to you, but now looking at this hand, because I'm trying to work out down, up, down, up. So again, a big jump, a big hurdle for a lot of beginners is feeling like you've got to watch everything, whereas actually you don't. You want to try and work it so that this right hand is doing its own thing and it develops without you looking too hard at it. So that's another tip to think about when you're practicing these exercises. Okay, so our third tip is about strumming, and strumming is an essential part of it. As beginners, we really often think that a lot of the work has to go into the chords, you know, the lovely open chords that you're learning and working through. We'll get to that in another tip. But actually, the glue of the whole thing is the strumming hand. You know, you're not going to sound very musical until this right hand is just doing its thing, okay? Because that's where the music, the rhythm, the vibes all comes from, just that right hand doing its thing, okay? So I would recommend when you're strumming and you're working on strumming, let's just remove the left hand altogether from the equation, because just like coming back to my other point, you know, we want to kind of try and work on one thing or another when you're starting out. So to think about, okay, I've got a D going to a G and I'm going to be thinking about my strumming, we'll get to that in a little bit, okay? So that will come. So initially, I would just literally just block all the strings off. So lay your hand quite flat against the strings like that. So it makes this kind of sound. So I'm not pushing down. If I push down, it will make this sound. I'm just literally resting as gently as you can. Okay? And try not to rest on the 5th fret or the 12th fret or the 7th fret where you get natural harmonics. Just rest something like the 6th fret or the 4th fret with my little finger, and then the rest of them are just supporting that. Okay? So something, I get that sound. And then I want to work a little bit on my strumming. So I'm going to give you an example strumming pattern here. You can find a couple more example strumming patterns via the write-up for this particular lesson via the description below. But I'm just going to give you something called the universal pattern. Now, we do this a lot in our courses and more on our courses later. But it looks like this. So I'm just going to pop the guitar down for a second and I'll bring out my trusty blackboard. Pshow! Now on this, I'm going to draw out a strumming pattern for you guys. So this is where you can start to practice your strumming, okay? So let me just show you this quickly. Now, hopefully you've seen these before. And if you haven't, then you will need to go over and do our 30-day beginner challenge on YouTube. We'll link to that below and at the end of the video, where I go through this in detail, but this is just a little extra tip. So this is what a strumming pattern looks like for us. There we go, just making sure you can see that nicely. So I've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We'll get to that in a second. And I've got these down up arrows, okay? That's literally the direction of your right arm, your strumming arm going down and up, okay? But at that point, before I color any in, so I'm now gonna color some in, okay? So just watch this for a second. Let me color these ones in. You'll love this. I love a bit of blackboard learning. It's classic, isn't it? So now you can see that these ones that are chunky and red, these are 1 and 2 and. So they're the ones we're actually going to strum. So just bear that in mind for a sec. Let's put that away. All I want to do is just mute those strings again with this hand. And then I want to just get used to now that I don't have to think about this whatsoever, I can just go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. So my right hand is literally air strumming. And when it comes to those red arrows, it was on the 1 and 2 and. So I'm going to go this. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and. So you can see by just simply blocking this, I can really focus in on this idea of kind of counting a little bit and also understanding that my right hand needs to just continuously move without having to split myself and also think about the chord changes. Okay, that will come afterwards. So that strumming pattern, down, down, up, 3 and 4, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and if we just finish up that strumming pattern to make it the universal pattern, so I'll bring that back up here, and I'm going to add in the rest of the arrows in red. Hold on, look at that, beautiful. It's like this. Ta-da! So now it's 1, 2 and. So let me just walk you through this. So 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that's what we're going to be strumming. So it will be 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. If you've never done strumming before and that's completely new for you, then I would recommend going and do our 30-day beginner challenge. You'll find the links below. We'll also put them here in the video. That's where you need to start. And that is a whole 30-day course for beginners starting from absolute scratch. We go through this in detail. But if you are familiar with strumming and you're doing that already, then by simply just blocking the frets rather than playing the chords, it's going to help massively just get that together. Okay, so tip number 4 is all about grouping chords that are similar. Or maybe you could say families or whatever you want to call it. But essentially, it's about taking all of the open chords that you're going to learn and start to group them so that they're easier to remember. Okay, so for example, if you know an E minor chord and an E major chord, these chords are just one note different. We won't get into the theory now, but it's essentially the idea of a flattened third versus a major third. If you like theory stuff, we'll leave a link in the description below for you. We've got lots of it. So if you literally go through the alphabet, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A, that's kind of all the notes of Western music apart from the sharps and the flats. But in open chords, we tend to just deal with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you will group them as you go. So at this kind of early stages, I would recommend learning all the major and all the minor open chords. That's a great place to start. That's what we do in our 30-day beginner challenge, plus a few more. Just grouping them makes a massive difference because remember, you're going to be playing these chords, not just as a beginner, but for the rest of your guitar journey. There's still nothing better than coming down and just strumming over these chords. It still sounds fantastic. I use it every single day. You will be using them forever. So we need to get them memorized. So I'm going to group A major and A minor. Nice. So we just learn A major, A minor. If you want these in a chord diagram, then check the link below because we'll have it via the blog post of this lesson. So A major, A minor. Then B. We don't really have a B open chord at the moment, so we're just going to leave that. C. We've got a C major open chord. We don't really have an easy way of doing a C minor open chord, so we're going to leave that. Then we've got D, D major and D minor. So these two you want to group together, D major, D minor, okay. E, my alphabet, just taking my alphabet, A, B, C, D, E. E major, E minor. Good ones, great ones to group together. Okay. Then F. F we will do a major and a minor. So we'll have an easy major, just those 3 strings. And if you want to try it, the minor is just barring the G and the B string and leaving the other one where it was. So you're going from there, so root, third, fifth, or 1, fret number 3, fret number 2, fret number 1. But then you're changing this one in the middle to be back here under a little bar. A little bit harder, but that would be the grouping. So let's just focus on that for now. And then G. And we don't really have an easy G minor chord here, so we're just going to do a G major. So that's a really cool little tip just to help you group and memorize these and then practice that. Practice actually going through, okay, let's go through the alphabet and just play the chords that I know and try to remember them. And also that's helping you with the changes as well, learning to go between different chord shapes. So there's another little tip for you. Tip number 5, and perhaps the most important tip of the lot, is to play every day. Now, let's clarify that because I don't want that to sound overwhelming. I'm not asking you to play for 1 hour a day or 2 hour a day or 3 hours, or these marathon sessions. Absolutely not. That's not necessary, especially as a beginner. To be honest, as a beginner, you just can't. I mean, you can't play for an hour a day because your fingers just won't have it. It's like, going to the gym, and rather than, starting with like a nice 10-minute session just to get you going when you first started the gym, diving into like a 2-hour weight training session with heavy weights, it's going to break your body. So it's the same here. That will really hurt the fingers and you just quite simply won't be able to keep up with that. So what we're actually looking for is short times, many times. So actually kind of doing it regularly is key, absolutely essential, and doing it for little patches, okay? So, it can be genuinely 5 minutes. 5 minutes to pick up the guitar and do the one exercise that you've got so far. It might be a spider exercise. It might be a scale. Whatever it is, it might be a pentatonic scale. Whatever you're learning, just play it. Working on the techniques that you're working on at the time. Or it might just be a couple of chords that you're kind of learning to change between, for example. 5 minutes will go a long, long way. Genuinely, I'm not even like, just motivating you. It's the reality of it. In the beginner stages, especially, 5 minutes makes a big difference. And then gradually, as you kind of get more and more motivated, you will naturally increase that 5 minutes to 10, to 15, to 20, as you kind of have a bit more to work on. And I've seen this in reality with my daughter, who's learning piano actually rather than the guitar, unbelievably. But I've seen it happen. Initially, it was a real slog to just sit down, to just do the 5 minutes. Nothing was sounding particularly good, etc., etc. And then just gradually, it started to sound a little bit better, even just those 5 minutes a day. And then before you knew it, she's starting to sit down all by herself on the piano and wanting to do it because it's sounding good. And then the 5 minutes goes past in a breeze and she wants to do 10, 20, all very naturally. And it's the same thing with the guitar, okay? So it is the case that you want to be trying to pick it up every single day. And on top of that, the last thing to say is that there is a bit of a difference between practice and playing. And we want to kind of be doing a bit of both, but the most important thing is to be playing, because the playing is kind of just enjoying the instrument. We are picking this thing up as an enjoyment thing, right? It's not to, to annoy ourselves with the whole process. We are fundamentally wanting to enjoy this process and what we're doing here and trying to get to play songs and have fun with that kind of thing. So playing is a huge part of that. And what I mean by it doesn't have to be deeply concentrating practice. You don't have to sit there every single time you pick it up and do a horrible spider exercise that you just don't like and it just sounds awful. Instead, it might be just that you kind of just really enjoy a couple of chords. Like in our 30-day beginner challenge, we really focus in on just 2 very simple kind of chords initially, because it creates like a fun, like, oh, that sounds quite good. And before you know it, you're playing some music, right? So if you've got a horrible, a long day of work and you sat down, you just think, I've got no focus energy here, then just pick up the guitar and just play. Slightly kind of like just allowing yourself to be with it and just playing. That's a good bit of practice. We call it play. It is practice, but it is play. It's kind of somewhere there. And just doing that, and that's my favorite kind of practice. I sit there, obviously, this is not a beginner exercise, but I kind of sit there. My wife loves me for it, just on the sofa, just mindlessly, but just allowing my fingers just to move across the fretboard, doing their thing. I'm not really thinking about it too hard. I'm just letting it be and just allowing the fingers to move. And that's developing a huge amount of muscle memory, okay? So they're the tips. You've got 5 really cool tips there. And if you feel a little lost with your playing and you're just like, well, these are great tips, but I still need some structure, etc., because you do, of course, as you're learning, then do head over to start our 30-day beginner challenge right here on YouTube. All the videos are here on YouTube. And then if you want to take the full course with the write-ups and the backing tracks, etc., then that's available via our Guitar Club website. We'll put all the links here for you, and I hope to see you over there to get started.